More info has come out on circuit attorney in St. Louis, Kimberly Gardner, proving just how crooked she is. Stick by and watch this episode of Guns and Gadgets. Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, the wicked awesome source for Second Amendment news on the YouTubes and the Facebooks and the Instagrams. Please subscribe and follow everywhere if you haven't already. This is where you're going to find it, and if you're looking for it, I usually have it. So let's talk about crooked politicians. Never ends, does it? It's Kimberly Gardner, the circuit attorney in St. Louis, who has forced her police department and the city to take out charges against Mr. and Mrs. McCloskey, saying that they brandished a weapon. They were actually charged with unlawful use of a weapon, even though they were in the face of threats, according to their statement. And we've all seen the videos that were out there. And I've done a bunch of videos as the updates keep coming in this case, and we have a couple of good ones in this video. But that playlist right there will get you all that information. I'm just going to blow through all that because it's already been done. So we have information that came out yesterday that Kimberly Gardner, as a city employee in St. Louis, she is required to disclose certain things as a public employee. Every city employee in St. Louis has to disclose trips. We're talking about trips here. And Kimberly Gardner was dimed out by another city source, and she has taken several trips in the last 2 years that she failed to disclose, specifically to Portugal, Houston, Selma, and New Haven. And those trips were paid for. She was sent there by a group called Fair and Justice Prosecution, also called FJP. And she has been sent on trips by this group before. In fact, she disclosed those prior to 18 and 19 for some reason, but she didn't disclose them in 18 and 19. In 17, she did disclose them. They were sent her to New York, Chicago, Seattle, and Philadelphia. But like I said, she followed the law on those. But now the circuit attorney doesn't want to follow the law anymore because, as we've been seeing in the last 6 weeks now, she completely believes that she is above the law. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Boom, there we go. Now this Fair and Just Prosecution is a group of very, very progressive, communist, Marxist prosecutors. And Kimberly Gardner, shortly after her election, became very involved in that group. She was invited to participate in these events because, quote, of her beliefs, values, and goals. Now, her office was contacted, and they were asked, why has the circuit attorney not followed the law in disclosing this information? Because she says she's very, very, very caught up or very hell-bent on enforcing the law. I mean, look what they're doing to the McCloskeys, right? They're crucifying this couple. Why doesn't she follow the law? Well, according to some reports, Gardner will not apologize for not disclosing because this is a veiled attempt at disparaging the circuit attorney. So she's saying, I will willingly break the law because I don't want you to realize how crooked I am. I guess, something like that. I guess we'll never know because she won't come out and say anything yet. Now again, I've looked at, I think it's 4 different articles from different groups reporting on this, and they all had some of the same information, and some of them had information that others didn't. What I did see was Fair and Just Prosecution. They have said that they generally will pay for prosecutors' food, lodging, and airfare for their events, and they say that's a standard practice. Most nonprofits will do that, but you got to disclose it, Kim. And this Fair and Just Prosecution, they get some funding from, guess who? George Soros, the same person who backed Kimberly Gardner's campaign. Ooh, the skeletons are jumping out of the closet right now. This comes right directly on the heels of the video I did a day ago or 2 days ago. I'm losing track of time here. But she was using this McCloskey case both before and after charges were filed to solicit donations to her re-election attempt, all in the name of justice, when it's obvious she has a vested interest because she's using it for campaign donations, and now she can't be fair and impartial. Yet she's refusing to take herself off the case, which was another video I did, which was a motion filed by the McCloskey's attorney. There's a lot of stuff going on here, guys. Also, this case has not been dismissed. A lot of people are pushing around a couple articles from over a week ago. It has not been dismissed. Yes, the Attorney General has filed an amicus brief asking the judge to dismiss it, but it can't just be dismissed like that unless a judge does it. And to date, today is August 1st, can't believe it's August already, but to date it has not been dismissed. Now, you would say that people finding out that you use this case to raise money, people finding out that you're obviously not impartial in this case, and people finding out that you're breaking the law yourself by not disclosing secret travel across the country, you would think that that was a lot for her. Like, she would be in either self-defense mode or squirreling behind a rock or, behind some cover and laying low. She can't because her primary election is Tuesday. And, sometimes you need to know all the dirt on these terrible anti-gun people who want to rule the world. Well, let's tell you some more about Kimberly Gardner. Sergeant Curtis Bergdorf is the lead investigator for the St. Louis Police Department on the McCloskey case. It has now come out that this sergeant has refused to sign two, not one, but two different versions of sworn statements drafted by Kimberly Gardner's office related to the McCloskey case. In addition, the police department says that upon review of all of the evidence in the video that was from that incident, at least one person in that crowd was armed, and at least one other person was wearing a bullet-resistant vest, a ballistic vest. It's come out that the circuit attorney did not like that, that truth, the investigating all the sides and letting all the facts be known before you make a decision to press charges. Well, check this out. A day before the search warrant was served on the McCloskey household, looking specifically for Mark McCloskey's AR and Patricia McCloskey's Jimenez. That Jimenez, we have proof from documents from the crime lab that at the time that reached, I did a video on this, but that gun was not functioning when it was turned into police. So therefore, the charge alone that it was able to do lethal damage at the time of the incident has to be tossed because you can't prove it. But her office, Kimberly Gardner here, ordered crime lab to disassemble the firearm, reassemble it so that it would work, and that's how she got her charge. But let's go on to this. The day before that search warrant was served, Sergeant Bergdorf received an email from a gentleman named Chris Hinckley, who is Kimberly Gardner's assistant circuit attorney. It's her right-hand man. And that email told the sergeant that the search warrant has to happen, quote, now. He also said that at this point, everything points to these weapons being real and loaded, but no one has asked or confirmed. Come trial, they'll say that they were waving around a BB gun and an air rifle. Our office is receiving inquiries from the public and press about a warrant application and potential charges. We've thus far said the matter remains under investigation. I'd really like to avoid pointing to a police follow-up request as the holdup, but I won't control the messaging if this goes on any longer. Please see what you can do to help this along. Again, I'm asking for priority on the firearms issue. So this is a prosecutor pressuring a police department to do a search warrant, or else I'm going to tell the media that you're the holdup and you can answer all the questions. Whatever happened to follow the evidence? The evidence here is obvious, but that's not good enough when you're trying to crucify somebody for political expediency, right, Kim? So the warrant was conducted, the two guns were handed over, and Hinckley was the one who told Crime Lab, disassemble that gun, put it back together so it'll fire, which is evidence tampering. That's illegal. Another reason to toss the case. But there's more. Now, this probable cause statement that Sergeant Hinckley had an issue with, the two drafts, I believe by the time I have this uploaded, I will have them here on the screen. But there are multiple concerns, and they're highlighted here. Among those concerns, Hinckley, who's the circuit attorney, the special assistant to Gardner there, characterized the protest as, quote, peaceful and organized, and that it was, quote, calling attention to racial inequities with the criminal justice system. Sergeant Bergdorf wrote that the evidence he gathered showed the protest was to call for the resignation of Mayor Lida Krewson. And then the final document, the second version, was changed to call it a protest march instead of a peaceful and organized march. So the police officer is catching the circuit attorney in lies and they're trying to change the wording so that they can get their warrant. Circuit Special Assistant Kim Hinckley wrote that Patricia McCloskey was, quote, armed with a semi-automatic handgun. And the sergeant wrote the phrase should read, quote, what appears to be a semi-automatic handgun, which is very common in investigative work. You can't say something is actually what it is until you prove it. So Hinckley responded in part, quote, you cannot be serious with this one. Again, this is really problematic, end quote. Ultimately, the second version read, quote, what was later determined to be a semi-automatic handgun, end quote. Hinckley also called Mark McCloskey's AR a, quote, assault rifle. Sergeant Bergdorf called the word assault a propaganda term. That's awesome. Hinckley disagreed, but it was left out of the final document. Hinckley also wrote that the protesters passed through an open gate onto private property. Bergdorf said he didn't know whether the gate guarding the private street was open when the protesters went through it, but that, at some point, it was damaged. Hinckley responded, quote, your points here are really problematic. It seems to go beyond oversight and into purposeful ignorance. I suggest you very quickly reassess this evidence, end quote. Now, he is chastising this police sergeant for telling him the truth. Ultimately, Bergdorf's document, the second version, read, quote, protesters walked through a gate, end quote. Hinckley then wrote that Mark McCloskey's gun was visibly loaded with an ammunition clip. That's a quote. Sergeant Bergdorf wrote that he would have to verify that detail because it wasn't mentioned in his report or any interviews with them. Hinckley wrote back, quote, seriously, end quote. Ultimately, the document did not include the phrase Hinckley wrote, because you can't tell by a picture if an AR-15 is loaded or not, you dunce. Hinckley wrote that both victims, identified only by their initials, quote, feared that the defendant might fire her weapon due to her finger being on the trigger and her highly agitated demeanor, end quote. Sergeant Bergdorf wrote that the term angrily was subjective and he didn't like the use of it. So Hinckley wrote, quote, it's a fact and an element of the offense, end quote. The final document did not include the word angrily because you can't prove if somebody's angry just by watching a video. More than likely, she was scared poopless. Now, 5 on Your Side also, in addition to this information, had something else. They got a copy of the voicemail that Hinckley from Kim's office left Sergeant Bergdorf after he wrote his response to Bergdorf's objections. And while I don't have the audio, I'm just going to read from their article on what they say. On this voicemail that Hinckley left Sergeant Curtis Bergdorf, he says this, quote, Curtis, you need to call me back. I wrote a long email to you trying to ask a bunch of questions about whatever it is you said some was, and it's blanked out. I guess it's BS. Now we need to straighten this out because I am about done with this crap. Call me back. Tough guy. Little attorney tough guy. Now, since the couple was charged, Sergeant Bergdorf's investigation is still going on this matter, and it looks like he's actually finding truth. Imagine that, truth. And some of the follow-up reports he has written that have been obtained by 5 on Your Side, they say that in these reports he says that there was at least one protester armed with a handgun, at least another was wearing a bullet-resistant vest with the words human shield on it. Also, some of the phrases from the video they collected that people were saying to the McCloskeys were these. You own a business, your business is gone. We're coming back, baby. You ain't the only blank with a gun. They coming back to your house. Also, Sergeant Bergdorf says that in another live stream video that he was able to obtain, he heard a man saying this, quote, I was in front, so I was the one who opened the gate. Well, that kind of throws out everything that all those lefties, no matter where they are, in the newspaper or on YouTube or wherever, were saying that, no, the gate was open. This guy on his own live stream said, quote, I was in front, so I was the one who opened the gate. The gate was broken after they pulled a gun. Wow, look at that. Another narrative destroyed. What law did we break? We keep guns there, but not for show, though. Not to look a certain way, but for use. If they would have shot, then they would have been put down. That tells you that they had guns in the crowd and they were threatening these people. Case dismissed. Done deal. And that state rep or whatever it was that said that he was there, charged his ass for being part of this violent crowd. Sergeant Bergdorf also said in some of his reports that the only thing that he could hear the McCloskeys, including Patricia, shout was, quote, "Go," as they pointed guns at demonstrators. So what you have here is a rogue, anti-gun, Marxist, Soros-funded hack who is doing everything she can to charge two people for defending themselves, for following the constitution of their state and their nation, and also following the castle doctrine of their state. They've done everything legally. Yes, maybe on the surface it looked like it could be improved a lot, but you know what? They're alive today. We as a Second Amendment community should be supporting them in their corner regardless of semantics, of how it looked, what shirt he was wearing, what gun she was holding. And hey, the size of the stones on her for holding 300, 500 people at bay with a non-functioning Jimenez. Don't play poker with her. That is the newest. That is the latest. That is how crooked Kimberly Gardner and her office are. The news is coming out left and right, and her primary is Tuesday. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have enjoyed this information. I hope this makes you smile to realize that, the truth is actually coming out. And it's actually refreshing. People shouldn't be charged. There's no justification for this charge. All right, guys and gals, until we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, carry your weapon. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's grow this channel. Let's grow this family. That way we all get the news we need. These people are so crooked. All right, guys, take care. Have a great one.